Okay, Mr. Chair, whenever you're ready.
Okay, perfect. I now call the March 17th, 2021 Zoning Board of Adjustment meeting to order. Item 3, public comment. Citizens who desire to address the board with regard to matters on the agenda will be read and or received at this time. Members of the public desiring to make comments during this portion of the meeting will be allowed to submit their written comments to the office of the city secretary. Written and or emailed comments must be received by 3 p.m. Wednesday, March 17th, 2021. The City of Sugar Land reserves the right to remove any written emailed comments deemed inappropriate and or not related to matters posted on the agenda. Comments or discussion by the board will only be made at the time the subject is scheduled for consideration. Were there any requests made?
No, sir. No comments at this time.
Okay, perfect, Thomas. Thank you. Seeing that there were no comments, we will move forward to item 4A, minutes. Consideration of and action on the minutes of the January 20th, 2021 meeting. Does anyone have any corrections to those minutes? Not hearing any. Oh, I'm sorry.
No, I don't have any. Sorry.
Okay, perfect. If not, do I hear a motion to approve the minutes?
I make a motion to approve the minutes.
Okay, I have a motion from Ms. Lindsay. Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Okay, great, Ms. Inglet. We have a motion and a second. We will do roll call votes. So when you hear your name, if you will give a yay or nay, would be much appreciated. Mr. Purveda.
Yay.
Ms. Lindsay.
Yay.
Mr. Morden.
Yay.
Ms. Inglet.
Yay.
And Mr. LaRocca is a yay. So the minutes are approved. Moving forward to item 5A, to receive and hear all persons desiring to be heard on a proposed special exception to the rear yard setback for 602 Chevy Chase Circle, Lot 1, Block 9, Sugar Creek, Section 1, in the restricted single-family residential R1R district. Mr. Schomburg.
Good evening, Mr.
Oh, there we go.
Good evening, Mr. Chair, members of the board. Sorry about that. Muted.
No worries.
I'm going to be presenting both of Laura's cases this evening, as she was unable to join us. The first case that we'll talk about at 602 Chevy Chase, and we'll go ahead and move to the next slide. This is in the Sugar Creek Section 1 subdivision. This is off Sugar Creek Boulevard and at that corner where it meets Chevy Chase. This property is zoned R1R, the restricted single family residential. It was platted and laid out back in 1970 as part of the City of Cities MUD district, and then was brought into the city at the end of 1984 with the Sugar Creek large-scale annexation. Their proposal is a special exception to the rear yard setback in the R1R district for a new home. The proposal is to demolish the existing home and build a new home at the site. Next slide. So a little bit about the case. The recorded plat for that Sugar Creek Section 1 at this property has a 5-foot rear utility easement along that side. The R1R district requires a 30-foot rear yard setback under the most current regs. As a corner lot, the HOA has some restrictions to allow homes to front on either side or front street. The home is addressed off of the Chevy Chase Circle. The existing home, as we mentioned, is to be demolished. It was built when it was in the ETJ in Fort Bend County, but not in the city. It does not comply with these R1R regulations, whether it be the back setback or the front setback, that existing home. But it does comply with the platted restrictions and any deed restrictions. The new home will align with that platted 5-foot rear yard, essentially where the existing home was along that. And I'm going to show you a drawing here in just a minute. And the exception would relieve that zoning setback. Next slide. So we'll go ahead and look at that, and the looking at the drawings in front of you on the left-hand side of the screen is the current property, which is over both the front and rear setbacks, and then the proposed residence with the at the 30-foot in the front, at the 25 along the side, and it is at the 5-foot along the rear there. This is the proposal. Next slide. We'll go ahead and look at the elevations, kind of take you through, and I want to spend a little time with these just so that we are fully understanding that these are the view along Chevy Chase Circle, street frontage at the top. Then we have a view to the side that's along the Sugar Creek Boulevard portion. Let's go ahead and go to the next slide. We have the view along the interior lot at the top, which has a garage that a person can get into from the Sugar Creek Boulevard. And then I wanted to focus the most on this elevation at the bottom here. This is the part that would be the closest, where you see the lighter white color to the resident across and to the east, also along Chevy Chase Circle. And the reason I call attention out to that was we did have some feedback from the resident that is most closely associated with it, and I wanted to focus on that while we had this drawing up. They wanted to better understand the special exception. Laura talked with them about it, and one of the things they wanted to make sure of was the part that's closest did not have windows at the second floor level, and that is the case. This elevation shows that there are no windows along that portion that is at the closest point. Along there are windows on the first floor. So the resident had asked about that. That was a concern of theirs, to make sure that there weren't windows on that most closely held point. This drawing, if is included as a condition, if the special exception is granted, will ensure that that has to be built like that. But again, in kind of getting oriented, I just wanted to kind of focus us in a little bit on that part that's the closest.
Makes sense.
We'll go ahead and go to the, this is an excerpt of the property, essentially at the center of the screen at that corner. It's been there essentially since the neighborhood was first established. We can see that the existing building is alongside at a 5-foot setback from the neighbor directly to the east there. And so that is part of the setback. And then there is also a garage further back on that neighboring property that would also be adjacent to the new construction. We'll go to the next slide. So this is a look at the neighborhood analysis. Based on what we've seen with the plans and that, we believe it to be architecturally compatible with the neighborhood. It's our understanding that they had been working with the HOA. Approximately 8 nearby homes, which are in yellow there, do not meet that rear setback of 30 feet. Again, was not designed with that. And there are 3 special exceptions in the general area in Sugar Creek related to rear setbacks. We'll go ahead and go to the next slide. So again, on the criteria, the 4 complete criteria, the first 3 platted prior to annexation, looking at the recorded restrictions and looking at the proposal, we believe meets all 3 of the first of the criteria there. The 4th, looking at, is this detrimental to the public welfare or to the neighborhood? We don't believe that it is. We looked at it from both the existing construction the architecture and the drawings that were provided. We do believe that, again, the absence of second-story windows there is a plus based on what the neighbor had said, and the existing house does not have second-story windows along that side either. Next slide. So for the public hearing, the standard notifications as well as notifying the HOA. The online form information was available, and again, we had inquiries about it. We had the closest neighbor, as I mentioned earlier, want to ensure that there was not windows at that second story, since that had not been the case in the past either. So next slide. So we do recommend, following the public hearing, approval of the special exception. We believe it would be appropriate, both the site plan and elevations to be included, and we'll be happy to take any questions after the hearing. The applicant is represented by their architect firm this evening, and I believe that is Mr. McWhirter there is on the call. I don't know if he's got a presentation, but I know he's here and available to answer questions as well.
Okay, perfect. Thank you, Doug. I appreciate that. At this time, we'll open the public hearing. And to echo what Doug just mentioned, obviously the applicant and the contractor are both on the line. Do either of you desire to make a statement or have any type of presentation you'd like to give?
No, sir, I don't have a presentation, but I'm happy to answer any questions anybody might have.
Okay, perfect. Is there anyone else on the call that would like to speak at this particular public hearing?
I don't have anybody signed up in advance, Mr. Chair.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so if no others, we will close the public hearing, and we will move forward on a consideration of an action on a proposed special exception to the rear yard setback for 602 Chevy Chase Circle, Lot 1, Block 9, Sugar Creek, Section 1, in the restricted single-family residential R1R district. At this time, board, we will go through the 4 criteria that Doug touched on. First criteria, the latest recorded plat of the property was approved prior to being annexed into the city. The plat is recorded in 1970. The property was annexed in 1984. Are we all in agreement with that?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, excellent. Thank you. Second criteria, the latest recorded plat or other recorded restriction for the property establishes a setback or other regulation that results in a setback that is less restrictive than the setback required by the City of Sugar Land Development Code, Chapter 2. The recorded plat establishes a 5-foot rear yard setback utility easement, while the R1R district requires a setback of not less than 30 feet for primary structures. Are we in agreement with this criteria?
Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you. Third criteria, granting the special exception will not establish a setback that is less restrictive than the setback established by the latest approved plat or other recorded restriction. As we've heard, the recorded plat for this particular property in Sugar Creek Section 1 established a 5-foot rear yard setback utility easement adjacent to the rear property line. The applicant is not proposing to encroach on that particular setback or easement. And obviously the special exception will not grant a setback that is less restrictive than the setback established on the plat. Are we in agreement with this third criteria?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, excellent. Thank you. And then the fourth criteria, granting the special exception will not be detrimental to the public welfare or injurious to the property or improvements in the district or neighborhood in which the property is located. At this time, before we kind of sign off on this fourth criteria, any initial questions, comments, clarifications that we have for Doug or the applicant or the contractor? So, Doug, I do have one just to make sure I'm on the same page. Going back to, can we pull up the aerial? Can we go back in the presentation?
Sure.
And look at the
We'll see
aerial
if the city secretary's office can help us put the PowerPoint back up, and
Yeah, sure.
it may take just a moment here.
All right, perfect. Thanks, Thomas. If you can go to, I guess it's
I believe it's the
one
slide
slide before, maybe?
prior.
Yeah. Yeah, this one. Okay, perfect. So just so I'm on the same page, we're talking about the rear yard is being defined as, if we're looking at left, right, top, bottom, the right side of the property, correct? That practically
That is correct,
shares the
that-
driveway with the adjacent property?
That is correct. Yeah,
Okay.
while someone's backyard here feels more like the south side,
Yeah,
from a setback standpoint here, the rear yard setback that we're talking about is on the east side.
east side, okay. And so the white part of the rendering that we kind of focused on, really, I guess I would assume kind of floats off or backs up to that driveway, if you may.
Yes, that's correct. And I want to encourage, if there is a question that y'all would like to ask the architect to kind of get into a little more detail about what you're seeing, I would encourage that too, to kind of go deeper if you'd like.
Sure. Well, no, I guess, Thomas, if you can go back to the aerial. Yeah, perfect. I mean, I think I've got a pretty good sense on how it lays out, and
Okay.
so from that standpoint, and then I guess my second question would be, as it pertains to the property owner that did inquire, I guess this adjacent property owner, it sounds like they were obviously, I guess any concerns that they had were remedied in terms of having any concerns with how that adjacent property is going to be configured.
That was
Is your
their key.
understanding?
That was their key element, as I understand it. Especially based on, I think, what they've been used to as far as existing construction.
Sure, makes sense. Okay. Those are the couple initial questions I had. Anyone else on the board have any other questions at this time? Okay. If not, then we will move forward. Obviously, we've touched on the 4 criteria. So we'll move forward as to this request. It's important to note that staff has examined the proposed special exception for 3 key aspects. The first one being a public safety review. There does not appear to be any public safety issues or concerns associated with this request. The second aspect being looking at the proposal as it relates to the neighborhood and the rear yard setback comparison. The proposed residential home appears to be compatible with the neighborhood based on an analysis of the surrounding area. As we heard, there appear to be 8 homes in the area that do not meet the rear yard setback of 30 feet. In concert, there are 3 approved similar special exceptions in the general area. And as we've seen from the renderings, the proposed construction is in compliance with the recorded plat and restrictions. And then the third item, looking at the neighborhood as it relates to the general architectural aspect, the proposed new residential home appears to be architecturally compatible with the existing single-family residence and neighborhood, and elevations can be included for certainty if we move forward in that direction. At this point, we've talked about the 4 criteria. We've looked at the 3 key aspects that staff has examined. Does the board have any other questions that may have popped up? Any other thoughts, clarifications from anyone? Not seeing or hearing any. We will continue to move forward. And at this time, I will. Is there a motion from the board?
I'll make a motion.
Okay, go ahead, Ms. Lindsay.
I move that the special exception to the rear yard setback requirements in the restricted single-family residential R1R district for the property located at 602 Chevy Chase Circle, Lot 1, Block 9, Sugar Creek, Section 1, be granted with the conditions that the new residence be constructed in accordance with the site plan and elevations attached to the request for the special exception.
Excellent. Thanks, Ms. Lindsay. We have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Excellent. Thank you, Mr. Preveda. We have a motion and a second. We will do roll call for votes. So as as we did previously, when you hear your name, please give a yay or a nay in relation to this special exception. Mr. Preveda.
Yay.
Miss Lindsay.
Yay.
Mr. Morden.
Yay.
Miss Inglet.
Yay.
And Mr. LaRocca is a yay. And so the special exception is unanimously passed or unanimously approved. Thank you, everyone. Moving forward to the next item on the agenda, item 5B, which is to receive is a public hearing to receive and hear all persons desiring to be heard on a proposed special exception to the street side yard setback for 3103 Mesquite Drive, Lot 24, and part of 25, Block 15, Settlers Park, Section 2, in the standard single-family residential R1 district. Doug, back at you.
Okay, thank you, sir. With the second case for 3103 Mesquite Drive, we'll go ahead and go to the next slide. Back in Settlers Park, Section 2, we have a corner property here as well. This is R1 zoning, our standard single-family residential. The municipal utility district in the area was laid out and the plat was done in 1978. And this area was brought into the city and the mud dissolved in 1991. Their proposal is a patio covered addition that's at the rear of the house, but it is along the street side that will be focused this evening as far as the setback. It is for the special exception to the street side yard setback. And we'll look at that a little further here with the drawings in a minute. The recorded plat has a 10-foot street side setback, and the R1 district now requires a 20-foot street side yard setback. Excuse me. The existing home is mostly out of that 10-foot, but does have a corner in the in part of that. The addition will be attached to the rear of the home. It will fully comply with the platted 10-foot street side yard setback, and the special exception would then relieve the zoning issue. Excuse me, next slide. So here we can kind of get into it a little bit more with the drawing. We can see the existing home along the street side, which is Greenfields Drive, and the front of the property, which is at the bottom of the screen, street is Mesquite. The crosshatched area is the proposed patio cover. Again, will not extend into any of the recorded setbacks or deed restrictions that's in question here, and they're adding some additional concrete as well, which does not factor into the special exception. So we'll go ahead and go to the next slide. This is a picture of the elevations here. We can see coming off with a roof style of the existing structure, and coming along the elevation at the top there would be along the street side. That is the same, the right elevation is that street side. And again, but this will be along essentially in the backyard of the property. Go ahead and go to the next one. This is a Google Earth excerpt, and we can see approximately in the center there, right at the corner, is the property in question. There is a fence along that street side yard, and we can see the right-of-way and the sidewalk as well along there. And we'll go ahead and go to the next. This is a view of neighborhood analysis there. We can see that a number of homes, 8 homes, do not appear to meet that street side yard setback. They built to the recorded one. There are 6 special exceptions in that immediate and general vicinity we can see in the blue. We looked at the plans. We believe they are architecturally compatible with the neighborhood. In fact, this is, again, more in the backyard for all points and purposes, but again, would not meet that most current zoning setback along the street. Okay, next slide. So the first 3 criteria meets platted priority annexation, recorded restrictions. It's less restrictive than them, but it is not less restrictive than any of the recorded restrictions by plat or deed. and would meet those. The fourth criteria, we don't believe there are issues that we could find, and we believe that the site plan and the elevations bring some certainty to that with the property. We'll go ahead and go to the next slide. We followed all the requirements and of the notifications. At this point, we did not receive inquiries, and I did check earlier today. Don't have any new information. Beyond that, we're not aware of any opposition to the special exception. And we do recommend approval of the special exception following the public hearing and suggest that the elevations and site plan be attached for certainty. We'd be happy to answer any questions after the public hearing. I believe the property owners are here. I don't know if they have any presentation they would like, or just or here to answer questions if there are.
Okay, perfect. Thank you, Doug. I appreciate that. At this time, we will open the public hearing, and as Doug just referenced, if the applicant is on the line, do you have any comments or any statement that y'all would like to make at this time?
We don't have any comments at this time.
Okay, great. Thank you. Is there anyone else on the call at this moment that would like to speak at this particular public hearing?
We have no advanced signups, Mr. Chair.
Okay, excellent, Thomas. Thank you very much. So with that being said, we will close the public hearing and we will move forward to consideration of an action on a proposed special exception to the street side yard setback for 3103 Mesquite Drive, lot 24 and part of 25, block 15, Settlers Park, section 2 in the standard single family residential R1 district. At this time, board will go through the four criteria that Doug touched on. The first criteria: the latest recorded plat of the property was was approved prior to being annexed into the city. The plat was recorded in 1978. The property was annexed in 1991. We in agreement with this first criteria?
Yes.
Excellent. Thank you, y'all. Second criteria: the latest recorded plat or other recorded restriction for the property establishes a setback or other regulation that results in a setback that is less restrictive than the setback required by the City of Sugar Land Development Code, Chapter 2. As we heard, the recorded plat establishes a 10-foot street side yard setback, while the R1 district requires a setback of not less than 20 feet. We in agreement with that criteria?
Yes.
Okay, excellent. Thank you. Third criteria: granting the special exception will not establish a setback that is less restrictive than the setback established by the latest approved plat or other recorded restriction. As we've seen, the recorded plat for this particular property establishes established in a 10-foot street side yard setback adjacent to the street side property line. The applicant is not proposing to encroach on the 10-foot street side yard setback with this particular improvement, and the special exception will not grant a setback that is less restrictive than the setback established on the plat. Are we in agreement with this criteria?
Yes.
Okay, I see heads nodding and some voices. Thank you. Final criteria, the fourth criteria: granting the special exception will not be detrimental to the public welfare or injurious to the property or improvements in the district or neighborhood in which the property is located. This time, as we talk about this fourth criteria, any questions, comments, clarifications for Doug or for the applicant? Okay, not hearing any. Then let's, if we are all, if I can get a positive from each of y'all that we are in agreement that with this fourth criteria, that'd be appreciated.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So moving forward, well, let me pause and make sure. At this point, is any questions from the board?
No.
Okay. Not hearing any. We'll move forward then. We've touched on the four criteria. Now we'll look at obviously as to this request. It is important to note that the staff has examined the proposed special exception for the three key aspects. The first being public safety review. There does not appear to be any public safety issues or concerns associated with this request. The second being the proposal and the neighborhood as it pertains to the rear yard setback comparison. To refresh, the proposed residential patio cover appears to be compatible with the neighborhood based on an analysis of the surrounding area. As Mr. Schomburg referenced, there appear to be 8 homes in the area that do not meet the street side setback of 20 feet. In parallel, there are 6 approved similar special exceptions in the general area, and the proposed construction is in compliance with the recorded plat and restrictions. And the third item, the proposal and the neighborhood as it pertains to architecture. The proposed residential patio cover appears to be architecturally compatible with the existing single-family residence and neighborhood, and elevations can be included for certainty if we choose to go that direction with the motion. At this point, we've talked about the 4 criteria. We've looked at the 3 key aspects that staff has examined. Any questions from the board? Doug, I've got one question. Not to go off on a tangent, but I guess I will kind of. Obviously, the patio cover looks fairly straightforward. I don't necessarily have any questions specific to that, but related to the piece of the residence that has the 8'8" foot setback, and so it intrudes into the original 10-foot setback that the plat established. Is that just something that occurred in oversight, and is that kind of it is what it is at this point?
That's true. That's essentially true. One of the things that I took a look at when this case was first the applicant applied was any situations where this might affect that. You have had in years past, you had a case of where the garage, a detached garage, being converted by the attachment of a large patio cover, and there was some encroachment there already, but it was that very request that made that essentially was converting the garage. So this didn't have that element to it.
Sure.
It's fundamentally essentially a small bit as well of the house, but we did kind of look at that. In that case, or in another case also, you were dealing with some construction and an easement that needed to be removed because it was literally in an area that utilities were needed. So we have had some things, but we did look at that just to make sure that we didn't have any issue with it, and we did. But that's a great question.
So nothing that we need to concern ourselves about at this point.
Right, that's correct. Yes, we're not in those. We're not in that scenario here.
Okay, perfect. All right, that sounds good. That was the only question I had. I didn't hear any other questions from the board. So if not, then we can move forward. And do I have a motion from the board?
I'll make a motion.
Okay, perfect, Mr. Morton.
I move that the special exception to the street side yard setback requirements in the standard single-family residential R1 district for the property located at 3103 Mesquite Drive, Lot 24 and part of 25, Block 15, Settlers Park, Section 2, be granted with the conditions that the patio cover addition to the residence be constructed in accordance with the site plan and elevations attached to the request for the special exception.
Okay, perfect. Thank you, Mr. Morton, for the motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
I think I heard Miss Inglet first, so she gets credit for the second. We got a motion and a second. We'll do roll call vote. So when you hear your name, yay or nay will be perfect. Mr. Preveda.
Yay.
Miss Lindsay.
Yay.
Mr. Morton.
Yay.
Miss Inglet.
Yay.
And Mr. LaRocca is also a yay. The special exception is unanimously approved. Thank you, applicant, for your time. Thank you, board members. So at this point, we will move forward to our final item, which is a motion to adjourn. Is there a motion?
I motion to adjourn.
I was going to say, it's got to be a motion out there. I have a motion. Is there a second to the motion?
I second.
Okay, we will just do a voice vote. So if I can hear a yay or a nay from everyone to adjourn the meeting, that'd be perfect.
Yay.
Yay.
Okay, excellent. At this time,
Mr.
the
Chair.
March. Yes, sir.
Just a little quick thing, and just
Sure.
in courtesy, we have a new alternate with us. He's on this evening. Gilbert Avila is replaced Ms.
That's
Mary
right.
Smith, who's going to be on a different board. So he's going to be serving with us. That's all I
Perfect.
can say.
Well,
Great.
thank you.
Yeah, no, welcome, Gilbert. We are certainly glad to have you part of our board. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Awesome. So at this time, the March 17th, 2021 Zoning Board of Adjustment meeting is adjourned. Thank you, Doug. Thank you,
Thank you.
other members of the city. Thank you, board. Appreciate it.
Thank you, board.
Yeah, man.
Night.
Have a great evening.
Y'all take care.